You'll have to go. All right. Oh, okay. I don't know how to move this thing. All right. Yes.
You on the screen, you have the crown around your head.
Cool.
Yeah, it looks like the crown around your head.
Somebody else. Oh.
Did you plan that way? Right. Ah.
Okay. Now, it's just because my hair is see-through, so it catches the light.
You're making it worse.
No, no.
Oh. We're the happy voters.
Okay. So, yeah, I know my internet connection's unstable. I don't know why. So one of the things that we've learned with studying karma is the importance of intention setting. So it really helps us collect merit, and you need a lot of merit to realize emptiness, because we can get out of this horrible situation of suffering and then help others get out. So being in the habit of beginning everything with an intention to use that time well and to use it for a dharma purpose is really helpful to doing it. It also, helps us at the time of death, because it's just such a habitual thing that it helps us have that be what comes to mind, that we want to do everything with the attitude of bodhicitta. So is that me making that noise, or is it just the speaker itself?
It's the pulsation.
It's what?
Like a pulsation.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows? Can you hear?
Air conditioning.
Sound might be.
No. Now.
Okay. So who has a good intention? Somebody suggested an intention. Okay, yes, of course, we want to do this for the benefit of all, but it's helpful if you're specific. If you say, okay, I'm listening to this teachings on karma to help me understand how I create negative karma, and I want to learn how to make positives in order to be able to finally, develop bodhicitta and realize emptiness, that kind of thing.
My words, exactly.
There we go. So you want to, and I know that takes time, but it's probably better than worrying about the way the funny sounds the mic's making, or whatever we're doing. Because it's the purpose of it. Part of it is to let go of whatever we were just doing and all the busyness we have about later doing now, so that we can focus. And we'll learn more that way, and we have more to investigate and think about. So it serves a lot of good for ourselves. It just serves a lot of good, so taking the time to do that. And so we'll recite the four immeasurables, because the four immeasurables is what it is we want to be able to accomplish for ourselves and others. So may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Cite the 7-limb prayer. Reverently in mind, I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence. And turn, I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. And then the refuge of bodhicitta prayer. I go for refuge, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sorry about the internet connection, but it is what it is. Anybody have any questions? Anybody remember what we've been talking about?
What did you say your thought is that counted as well?
Our negative thoughts count as well. Everything that we do, basically, all our mental actions, all our speech actions, all our physical actions, place imprints on the mind.
And those imprints kind of stay there.
Oh, they'll stay there until they ripen and, exhaust. Now, the imprints of states of mind are more like tendencies. So if you have a lot of the, habit of generosity, you'll have the tendency, and if you keep practicing that, it just keeps on going. So, and I read a description of that today. I think His Holiness said, just like into wax, and there's nothing of the seal there at all. So is our karma carried by the mind. Even though the mind disintegrates in every moment, those imprints still arise in every moment as well. They don't dissipate just because they've already been placed, So, because it's part of the continuum.
The imprint is on mental contact device,
Right.
Which is why it's so important to get the opportunity for the moment of death to be as positive, Dharma oriented. It carries.
Right. You want the condition at the time of death to be suitable for something positive to ripen. So your mind is part of that condition. It has nothing to do with whether your body's in terrible pain. You know, it's about whether your mind is, you know, directed towards, you know, the positive. You know, so it's that kind of mind. The more likely it is, it'll just be there because it's our habit. You know, so. And it's a really important moment. So it's a good moment. But the only way to have it is to practice it now. You know, we just need remembering to dedicate at the end of activities, all these things that they're habitual. They'll be something we just do. And so the day that we die, we'll have done that. You know, there's no question that they'll have at some point in that day, we'll have done that. We'll have set an intention. So it's just, you know, so if we have the time to be cognizant that we're dying, you know, as opposed to an instant death in a car wreck or something. But even if you're driving with the mind benefiting others, you know, I'm paying attention to my drive. I'm being a good driver in order to protect the lives of others, you know, in order to, you know, whatever. I mean, to us, no matter how we die. You know? So, going for refuge has a lot of power because of the field of merit. You know, so you're basically going for refuge in enlightened, you know, what the knowledge of enlightened beings, like the Dharma. Yeah. So it's because we're ordinary beings, we get the best merit when our field, you know, the basis, as they say, being. So so this will be good. You know, if Paula talks about guru devotion on Saturday, you know, it'll be a good, you know, it'd be helpful, you know, to just listen to that, listen to her point of view on that. So, and why a field of merit has power. Because it can sound awfully magical. And magical if you understand how, like, all our actions place imprints on our mind. So you can just imagine the kind of energy a holy being has, you know, because it's all positive. And in fact, once you've reached, I think it's the path of even Aryas can't take a lower rebirth because they have their understanding of emptiness changes everything, you know. So that's one of the reasons they're a field of merit. So they're not enlightened yet, but they, not right away. It's not like a one-shot deal, but you know, over time. But they lose all their acquired afflictions as soon as when we get there, we will too. It's acquired afflictions. So, yep.
The Arya has the wisdom of realizing emptiness.
That's what is the measure of an Arya.
Right.
Is
what is between, why is that not enlightened?
because you have to remove all the imprints from your mind stream used to omniscience. So first you have to remove, you know, all the afflictions and their seeds. So it's you know, it's a gradual process. It's not like it, you know, you have to come back many lifetimes to be able to do it. It's more that you're in one state of meditation until you succeed it. Stages of turning your mind towards objects in order to remove your afflictions for each level of phenomena kind of thing. They literally call it, like on the first ground, you're doing like the small, medium, and great, afflictions of the first ground. And then the second one is the small, medium, and great things of the second ground. So anyway, don't worry, I'm sure you'll know what you're doing when you're there. So that's the good news, but it's a gradual process in terms of, it's not one moment of having a direct perception of emptiness, but in that one moment of a direct perception of emptiness, you've become an Arya being. When you're on the 8th ground of a bodhisattva, if you're on the bodhisattva path, then you won't have any obstructions to liberation. Bhumis are grounds or levels, like they'll translate all those things.
The 8th, but isn't there? There's so after the 8th, there's still
the 8th, 9th, and 10th. You're removing the obscurations. Those are cognitive obscurations, knowledge obscurations. So if you don't seek complete enlightenment, you'll still be obscured from omniscience. Now, according to our tradition, everybody, once they become liberated, will figure out there's more work to seek complete enlightenment as part of their wisdom. They might spend a few hundred years in bliss before they get back to work, but everybody does it. That's not what is taught in the Pali tradition. That's not what's taught. In the Pali tradition, you have to have been born, like when Shakyamuni Buddha was here, in order to become enlightened. Everybody else to become a Buddha. Everybody else can only reach liberation. That's part of their canon. In our tradition, everybody has Buddha potential. Doesn't matter when you're born. Obviously, so I'm sure that's like the rocket path. If you say aspirational prayers, be born in a pure land, if your teachers are praying for you to be born in a pure land and you actually succeed to go into a pure land after this life, you will not create the cause to the perfect place to learn the Dharma, and you'll become awakened there. So it's a good place to go. So it's sort of like you pray to go to a pure land, and then you go, and if not that, I'd like a perfect human rebirth, please. Their prayers to Sukhavati and Amitabha's villages, Amitabha's Pure Land, because ordinary beings can be born there. It's out there a beautiful prayer. If you have a prayer book, it's in there. It's very nice. So those are kinds of things like, when time. So it's just, when you occasionally take a day for the Dharma, then it's good to read those kinds of prayers, the King of Prayers and the prayer to be reborn in a pure land, those kinds of prayers. So, because then that helps you have the habit at the time of death to be, and teachers, occasionally you'll hear teachers say something like, next time, Pure Land. We'll meet in the Pure Land. I'll give you teachings in the Pure Land. It's really very nice. So,
I don't think that's you. I think that's just something random inside the electronics.
Somewhere in the building.
okay, Wilhelm contact. That sound right in the 12 links? We didn't really stop because we did talk about feelings. I know this is kind of a big ask, so remember what we talked about.
Did anybody take notice?
Yeah, I took a lot of
that all of attachment is fear, that fear that we won't get what we want.
Yes, that attachment and fear is a type of attachment. So I've actually seen that in print now. So, it's because it's not listed as one of the mental factors, because they talk about the men study the mind. They're basically talking about the mind, the states of mind that either really get us stuck in samsara or really help us get out of samsara. So they talk about certain virtues, and then they talk about, the most troublesome of our disturbing emotions. So I've heard it's connected to attachment. Yeah.
That's what we talked about.
Yes.
That was
Okay.
about you.
So
And then about grasping and about if the cause is anger, the effect could be more anger. You talked about those things.
Yep.
Talked about those things.
So we went through the whole 12 links.
Yeah.
So contact is that state of mind where the consciousness, there's an object. Every consciousness has an object. Every moment of consciousness has an object. And it's called, and that object, and the fact that you have the sense power to have a consciousness of the appropriate type, like sense mind, each moment of mind produces or is the cause of the next moment of mind contact, because it's just, this is how it works, is that you're able to be aware of an object because we have consciousness. So when those three conditions come together, we have contact with a new object, doesn't have to be brand new, just it arises. Is that you make contact, previous moment of mind draws you to look this way, and then you have contact with whatever object you're looking towards. So contact is that condition for fear. So you make.
I don't think it's anything.
I do, because every time I hold it, it doesn't do it. That's my theory. Is the condition. So in other words, you have to you have to come for a feeling to arise, but feeling and contact, these are all always present mental factors. So every moment of mind has them. Yeah.
So is your thought that causes a disturbing emotion, is that an object?
The thought is the disturbing
Okay.
thing. So like anger. What's the object with anger?
Myself.
I can't hear you.
Somebody or myself.
Yeah. Usually, it can be, the concrete step that you just stubbed your toe on,
Right.
but it's, but it's a person, so it's, or the object. Okay. And in connection with that, so anger, all of them, every state of mind you have has an object. It can be yourself, it could be others, it can be an inanimate thing like water, We can only make contact with objects of the senses if our sense powers are working, if the sense organ is working, otherwise those senses won't make contact with sound. We won't make contact with, I don't know how many people don't have the sense of touch, but so in other words, something has to be working. And one of them is that sense power, which is, we had name and form and then 6 sources. And so those sources are your sense power. So in other words, if something is faulty and that sense power doesn't develop, or that sense organ doesn't develop, then you will not make contact with the objects of those consciousnesses. So those consciousnesses won't arise. So if someone's deaf, it's like that.
So in terms of emptiness, objects sounds solid.
It is. Objects exist.
In terms of emptiness,
Emptiness is the absence of inherent objects are empty of inherent existence. Doesn't mean objects don't exist. They exist.
Oh.
Okay. So, and this is something about the view. Like the Zen view may be different. The mind-only school thinks that there's an object are share the same karmic seed. This tradition does not agree with that.
So is clairvoyance then another sense? Sense of, another sense.
I don't know whether it's a sense. So I don't know. So the fact that we develop clairvoyance, it's a side effect of concentration. Yeah. So when you develop calm abiding, you have some abilities that you didn't have before. Your abilities of mind, you're able to read other people's minds if you want, if you like, if I turn my mind to you, I might be able to read your mind. You can't do it like the Buddhas do it. You can, because they just know everything all at once. We can start to remember some of but I don't know if it's a separate sense. That's a good question that we'll have to look.
And anything that not that I've read as much as probably everybody here, but this, I've never seen clairvoyance mentioned as one of the sense consciousness.
I didn't say it was.
No, I didn't say. No, I know you didn't. I don't know.
But I'm not sure I know what it is exactly in the terms of, it's a state of mind. It's an ability of mind. But I don't think it's tied to, I think it's a mental ability. As those the other things are sense well, they see, yeah. They only exist, yeah. Not everything, not all sentient beings have all sense objects.
Some have more.
And some have more. So there you go. I think clairvoyance, though, is just a mental state that is something you can do with your mind due to your ability to concentrate. And none of us have that problem here, apparently. So, we're not exhibiting those you might have it. Yeah, people, it's so funny because when people start to get the suspicion that their teacher has probably some clairvoyance, they start to get nervous around them, So it's kind of funny. Another good reason to set intentions and to try to keep your mind positive.
My son-in-law told his children that he knows what they're thinking. They believe him.
Well, that, it has power, this thing. Okay. There was a
Contact.
and of course, feeling is what arises due to contact. So you've made contact with an object and then you have a feeling about it. And those feelings are what?
Craving and grasping.
No.
Aversions.
It's either pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. That's it.
That type of thing.
We're not referring to emotions here or anything like that. It's just pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. That gives rise to craving. it can give rise to the desire to have more of it. If it's unpleasant, it can give craving, the craving to be separated from it to arise. So this is why it's so important to practice, experiencing pleasant or unpleasant and not react. Just experience pleasantness or the unpleasantness and not chase it or push it away. I remember teaching, Geshe Gelik used to say, like we drive him to the teachings and so you'd ask him, oh, well, and he goes, it's fine to just leave it as it is. You don't have to immediately, you get a headache, you don't have to take that, an aspirin right away, just get used to it, because reacting to it, there's nothing wrong with preference. Having preferences is not negative. It's a aspect of the desire realm. Just, things are going to be pleasant or unpleasant. Or neutral. Goes to the next level to where you have craving. And then that gets so strong, you have grasping. Well, yeah, it all causes suffering. Right. We all know that craving is, isn't very desirable. So when it's happening, especially when we know we're going to be able to get what we want. So you're on the way to the bakery and you're already salivating because you can almost taste it,
I knew somebody that every time he went to the gym at 12 o'clock, just before
go. That's so hilarious. So I think it's, so there's something we can do about that. And it's good practice for us to try not to react to pleasant and unpleasant.
And so you just,
well, you just start oh, this is nice, and you stop. You don't create a story about, oh, when will I be able to get some more? You just kind of enjoy it. Because we usually skip over the enjoyment part. And we don't even investigate the non-enjoyment part. I mean, some things are just not going to be.
And what about addiction?
Addiction is craving and grasping.
Out of control.
Yeah, well, craving is already out of control. It's all a matter of degree. It keeps getting further. Like if you tend to be very much have a craving mind in this life. I mean, this is what it does. You might have receptors in your brain that encourage it, so it's just, it's,
if it's neutral,
doesn't do
you don't have to
anything.
worry about reacting.
Right. Or not reacting.
Or not reacting.
And you don't. That's what makes it neutral.
So that's the goal.
It's not really. It's not to be reactive just because something's pleasant or unpleasant. We can experience pleasant and unpleasant.
Yeah.
But we just want to try not to crave.
Experiencing equanimity.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
What is it?
Equanimity.
Equanimity is better than neutral.
Well, equanimity is a state of mind we want to develop. Neutral is just something we do naturally. Because some things are just neutral. I don't really have a pleasant, I just do it.
Well, how do you do that? I mean, I always have unpleasant, like I've got to do this, and I hate this.
Well, what you do is pause and ask yourself, do I really mind about it the whole time I'm doing it? What purpose does that serve? So you can do some analysis with it, if you know you have a habit, then also you can just say, okay, and let it see what it feels like to have that dislike. Because you might notice that the dislike lessens or doesn't last long because you just get it done. Now, that might not be true of cleaning your house, but but it's worth it to try to examine how much we react. Because this is one of the ways in which we create more suffering for ourselves. And we don't see it with things that we like, except in the form of craving, when we can't get what we like. And then that, which is what addicts go through, because they get their fix, it lasts not very long, and then they have the craving back. So we want to let go of that mind. That's the thing, is that it's a we don't like, and to gather things we do like. And it seems natural, except what you're doing is reinforcing that idea that this self needs to get what it wants, needs to be separated from what it doesn't want. And it's according to my preference. It really a self-existent self, inherent existent self. So it's and of course, at the time of death, what's coming up for us is our attachment to to existing. So we're clinging to this existence, and then when we actually die, and the Bardo body appears to us or something, then we start grasping for that life, and so this is how rebirth occurs, so. So working on not having that such strong craving and grasping arises is helpful. Yeah.
So is it a natural thing for whatever that is that leaves the body at the time of death?
It's our
to
consciousness.
hold on to?
It's a state of mind. There isn't something separate that goes,
Yeah.
It's your mind. It's your habits that goes to the next life.
So there's no tearing away from the physical body.
Oh no, it's not physical, so it just goes.
Would an addict create very strong imprints?
Oh, God, yeah, creates imprints of craving. I would say that you had lots and lots of craving in previous lives, so much so that you actually are born in a body that has receptors for things like nicotine and alcohol and all the other things, so that it becomes a brain disease. And those who have really, really practiced at it can't get out in this life. And others can. But they may have trouble next life, depending on their attitude about it.
It's almost like the good points.
Yeah.
And the addict doesn't see the negative aspects of that drug right away. They just remember the high.
They're infatuated with the drugs.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And there's truth to it. That's the trouble, isn't it? Oh, you decide to have an affair. Well, it's fun. So, I mean, this is the mistake we make. Getting what I want will make me happy. And it seems to be true, until everything else falls apart. So that's the thing that we have to keep. This side's better.
How do you know if you have a karmic connection? I've heard people talk about that with someone.
We have a karmic connection with everybody.
Okay.
Strong karma in life, may show up in the fact that you're friends right away. Some people you meet, you just like, other people you meet, you just don't like. That's probably has something to do with karmic connections, but there isn't any importance to it. It just means you've known them recently. Siblings, think about this. This is driving me a little nuts.
I was watching something on Indonesia and Bali, and the speaker was interviewing somebody that's lived there since he retired, and he lives there for like $600 a year, and they were talking about Buddhist beliefs. They're always smiling, they're always friendly because of their karmic beliefs. They know what will happen if they don't.
Yeah,
act
karma. This is
kindly.
the importance of karma.
And it's just very pleasant. I mean, there's no crime, and interesting.
So the Bali have created the cause to have a conducive environment towards practicing the Dharma. It's temporary, but it's this is environmental karma, that you're someplace. Now, it's like you said, it's the mental habits that make it suitable for them. Other people would get there and go, oh my God, they don't do anything serious here, because they don't have those imprints. So, but we really need to be aware that preferences aren't a problem, but our reaction to our preferences become problematic because we're in the desire realm. We're in the desire realm because we have the tendency to what we don't like. It's a strong habit. That's why we're here.
So what do you suggest when you have a reaction because somebody doesn't have the preference that you like?
Your practice, think about it. What difference does it make if two people have the same preferences? Why do we think that's nice?
Smooth going.
Yeah.
Only in terms of the
Most
relationship is important in that respect.
it's affirming yourself.
Well, it's convenient, isn't it? If you're talking about food, it's nice if everybody likes the same food. If you want to go to the movies, it's nice if everybody likes the same kind of movie. But other than that, what is the problem you see with that? What doesn't have you ever been shocked when you find out somebody doesn't like your favorite food? And it's just like, how can you be like that? Because we think the deliciousness is in the food, and it's not. And give me a better picture.
Trying to think of something here.
Are you talking about karma?
About
Preferences. So it is nice, and sometimes we're attracted, our groups of friends can often have very similar preferences because it's one of the reasons why you hang out together. Like they're easy to go to the movies with because make an agreement where, okay, you get to choose this week's movie, I get to choose next week's movies because they don't have any preference in the same movie,
Somebody that I know, it's like, well, what do you want to see? I'll say, just you figure it out, because every time I've had this suggestion, whatever you want to see is fine with me. Just
Yeah.
but it gets me mad.
does them not making a decision get you mad, or than them not going when you, because of your preference?
Both.
I can understand that. I mean, I understand this is how we do, you know? So we have to really look at first advantage to reacting with anger. That's setting yourself up for suffering, you know? So we want to come up with a better response than anger, because then that's poisoning yourself.
So what do you do? Just analytical meditation?
Political meditation, you kind of envision the scenario and say, okay, so they ask me for my opinion, I give them my opinion, and then they go, oh no, that'd be terrible, you know. So then you practice, how can I respond to that in a way that doesn't create suffering for myself, which anger, it apparently doesn't get your way. It doesn't, you know, it's not like it helps.
But it's kind of hard. It's kind of difficult to, well, I guess that's why I'm forced to get away from the anger so you can be clear.
You know, when you're not in the thick of it, you know, you're doing this in meditation or sitting at the kitchen table and you're not with this person, you know, and you're thinking about it, because, and you can think about, how can I let them know that I feel like they're not respecting what I'd like to do by their comments, you know? And it would really want it to see without any of this kind of judgment of my choice, you know, because sometimes in relationships, you want to let them know that this is, you know, that this is what's happening for you. They don't have to do anything about it. That's always the risk we take, is the, you know, too bad I don't like the movies you like, you know, but you know, others, because they want the relationship to, you know, keep going, you know, will come up with a different solution. Like you go to movies with other people because you don't have any compatibility over a movie. You know, and that's okay. See, one of the things that we have to do is to see if we're reactive because we don't have the self-confidence to be okay with our choices. Because the reality is preference is just preference. It doesn't say anything about you. You know, so it's okay to have an opinion, and it's okay, you know, to be okay with that. You don't have to justify yourself for having preferences. You know, so you know, you think about these things and think about, well, where would I like this, what you want. That's not the purpose of it. It's to just unpack it so that you can pause and not make yourself miserable over it. You know, because people can say all kinds of things and we don't have to listen. We can, you know, we socialize them with in the future, but we don't, you know, we don't have to listen to their judgments. We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to prove they're wrong. We don't have to do anything with them. They're just their preferences. But we can only do that when we pause, step back, and look at it. Once anger's arisen, you know, all you can do is pause and not say anything. And, you know, not make it worse, you know, for yourself. So but it's okay that it comes up, because this is what happens. We're not Buddhas. It's going to come up. Anger will arise. But no is really powerful, you know. And of course, we can make choices like, well, I'm not going to go to the movies with this person, because neither one of us are happy with the choices. And that's okay too.
Seems to be easier for me to make choices that are involved with somebody else. The difficult one is for me when it's about self-sabotage.
When it's about what?
Self-sabotaging, self-sabotaging, like I'm doing something knowing that it's not going to be good anyway.
Yeah, you want to
And
sit
then
down.
I end up disliking myself.
Yeah, you really do have to sit down and think about those things and see what bubbles up. Just let yourself, okay, this is the feeling, and sit with the feeling and see what bubbles up. See if there's any information that will bubble up for you about what's going on. You know, and this, you know, it's just, you know, we want to let go of this idea of self-sabotage because that's just,
Closing?
when we'd like to give that up too.
Oh, yes.
Yes, but part of that is grasping into self. One moment of this or that does not define us, doesn't define us, because we're changing from moment to moment. There's nothing to loathe. There's nothing to grab onto. If you look for yourself in those moments, you won't find you. You'll find a series of thoughts and a series of actions that, you know.
So it could, if I had a sense of humor, I could laugh at it.
Well, you could think about that.
Yeah.
And you can also think about the fact that this is just another way I'm expressing the sense to think that I am this thing, you know, that there's a self to dislike.
That could also be a
Grasping, you know. So this is an opportunity to start freeing ourselves from these kind of habits, because they just reinforce that there's a self to cling to, you know. And when you really look back on your life, you're going to try, you know, and you try to pin yourself. It's just a bunch of moments of mine, and they've been quite varied, you know. So
that defines why I'm here.
this is what we all need tools to do, to learn how to do it. And we're born into this culture because of particular habits. We come to this culture, and then, you know, in other cultures, you know, they don't have, you know, there's a different flavor to their habits.
But I meant here.
Yes,
tonight.
no, I know, and it's, but, and this is, you know, it's like, what's wonderful about habit is, it's learning that we can choose to do something differently, you know. So, yeah, so don't forget to dedicate.
Yes.
You know, all that positive energy, may it benefit, may it last until all Sunni beings are enlightened. So, so we want to see that in many, many, many moments of everyday life, we're going to grasp it. And that's what happens at the time of death. So it really matters learning how to handle that combination, contact, feeling, you know, craving and grasping, and interrupt the craving and interrupt the feeling. It's going to happen. It's an always present mental factor. We're going to find some things pleasant, some things unpleasant, and it will change, won't it? You know, you might have loved Kool-Aid as a kid. I bet you don't now. You know, so the problem isn't having preferences or liking something, that it is thinking that pleasant things are good, unpleasant things are bad, and then creating a story around that. It's just, it doesn't define you. It doesn't do, you know. So, however, if we start craving and then giving into that craving, and then giving, you know, more, which leads to what? More craving. That's all it does. It's a moment of craving, which leads to another moment of craving, you know. So we want to practice not giving in to those cravings, to kind of notice, ooh, now I'm craving it, and pause.
That's like a form, that's a form of attachment. You're craving an attachment. Well, version of it's
But it's a craving to either to be closer to something or push something away.
you become attached to that craving because you feel that's your key to happen.
You don't get attached to that craving. Craving's a sign you are attached to that feeling. Liking is not attachment. Attachment is when you exaggerate the qualities, that what you perceive as good qualities in the object. And we all have had relationships and the other person doesn't have to change at all. We change.
Does the mind create a personality? So if you take your mind with you, with your personality.
What do you think a personality is?
I guess your own behavior.
Personality you don't have. No, you have tendencies.
Yeah.
And that's it. You have habits. It's not a personality. It's just habit.
Creates a personality?
No, there's no such thing. That's a story we make up to grasp onto. I'm just that kind of person.
Yeah.
We really want to see how many ways in which we are creating.
Yeah, I could see that. Mm-hmm.
And that's the trouble with things like the zodiac. Oh, you're a Leo. You're a classic Leo. You're grasping at a story.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean there's no truth in any of this stuff. With the in terms of that, we have tendencies to do this and there that's sort of separate from every moment of mind and body.
Mm-hmm.
Is the mistake we make. There's nothing over here. It's just a series of moments of mind and body. We keep wanting to stuff it into a bag and say, here's me. But it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So we want to suss out the habits we have that are reinforcing grasping at a self. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
That's so beautiful.
Hence, this is why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
This is why it's the root of samsara.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything makes us believe that there is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a big mistake. It's why we're stuck in suffering. Really good reason to try to let go of that. If you want freedom from suffering, that's the direction you want to go. And when you really think about it, you can start to see why there's a connection with that, like self-loathing or arrogance. These are states of mind in people. We don't like it when they're present. We certainly don't like to feel that way. We don't like to be around someone who's acting arrogant, The constant judging is another thing that's reinforcing this sense of a self. I'm this, I'm that, you are this, you're that. So we got,
When I first started studying Buddhism, I had a judgmental attitude, and then it went to judging other people for being judgmental.
Yeah. Oh man. It's multi-layered, isn't it? Yes, yes. It's very easy to turn our judginess into to judging everything, So we judge ourselves, we often say, oh, we're our own worst critic. Can't read your mind, but sometimes I bet there are days when that's not correct. So we judge each other harshly, we don't, and so that's why it's good sometimes to practice what would your best friend tell you in this moment, to come at it from a different perspective, to recognize that self-loathing might not be the appropriate response to this event. And what was the hardest thing about for me to let go of the guilt, feeling guilty all the time about what a terrible wife I was. That was terrible. So is I'd have to keep reminding myself, guilt just gives me permission not to change because I think that's who I am. And it's with this, why would I change? I wouldn't even think it's possible to change. So every time guilt would come up, I'd just say, shut up now, that's not helping. So there's no question that this is difficult to do. This was before Buddhism, so I was practicing having to be honestly aware of yourself and then respond with compassion and kindness. All these minds we want to practice. There's a good place to start with that. And that's not. And if you have to bring a best friend in there to help you guide you with that, it's but which just in your head, it's just like, and the way you do that is just to say, if my best friend is, so it's giving ourselves perspective and realizing, so the Buddha's given us some things to look out for, one of which is this idea that somehow there's this self that is us. They're constantly changing. There's just sort of, I don't know, the essence of us, and it's kind of permanent. Maybe there's a childlike one and there's an adolescent one, but then there's an adult one, all of them don't exist. And every time we try to put ourselves on, we're trying to make a self that we can grasp at. And it doesn't exist at all.
So if it doesn't exist with me, it doesn't exist with him.
Right.
So why would I judge him? Why would I have an
Right.
opinion about him?
Like we can assess behavior. We just need equanimity. He's just another sentient being. We are all just sentient beings. We're all suffering. We all don't know what we're doing. So we can judge behavior because that's one of the ways we assess it. You don't go up to someone and say, I don't want to be a person like you. But
They're ignorant. Some people do.
But that's what we do in our minds. We do it constantly in our minds. We meet someone, we've got an opinion. Yeah. So we need, that kind of, and if we're treating ourselves the same way,
No.
But we need to understand that the same way, we overreact. That's what we're doing. When somebody does something, we just can't stand it. And we think, what a creep. We have now put themselves in a, and that means every moment of their existence is creep. And that's a lie. It's not true. So it's not useful.
And
Especially not
it keeps you from getting to know them more intimately. by them to go to war.
Yeah, that's how they train soldiers. There's no question you train soldiers to hate this group of people who are not really people, so that they can kill them. So, but we don't want to do it in our day-to-day life either. It's just, it's going, it's not that there isn't behavior that we don't want to be around. It's just that that behavior doesn't say anything about the sentient being in terms of the big picture, Doesn't mean you have, but having more equanimity in our minds and trying to figure out, boy, I wonder what would lead to that habit. To see it as an opportunity to think about how we develop our habits. That is cause effect. And some effects are not useful at all. So we have to stop the cause. So this is why it's really helpful to spend time with the Dharma. For one thing, it's a field of merit. So reading Dharma books, listening to teachings on Zoom, we have access to these ways because there's power in that object. That helps us with our minds while we're doing it. It helps create more merit, just by virtue of the object. It's so that we actually have realizations. So then we become fields of merits. Fields of merits. This is the hard stage. Once we bodhicitta, where it's spontaneously, so and it just influences every moment of our mind, every moment of our actions. It's easy. Because you worry about yourself never comes up. Self-loathing would never come up because you're never the topic of your, not of interest. Working for others becomes easy because you're thinking about it all the time. Doesn't mean you make all the right decisions or anything. That takes longer. But, being able, really developing that mind, once that happens, they're over. This is the hard part. So we need to respect ourselves for trying. We need to respect how hard it is. We need to respect how much we have to be reminded again and again and again and again, I reread Dharma books all the time. Those moments where you kind of go, wow, was that really in here?
Yeah.
Have I really read this before? It's kind of shocking, but it's, but that's good because it's just like a brand new book. But yeah.
That's one of the reasons I enjoy your teaching I've read recently. And I may not have gotten it. I thought I understood it, or I had some, but just the way you may put it, I all of a sudden have more clarity.
Yeah,
and it puts it in a different perspective, and now I go, so that's what they were saying.
Point of having teachers. Some of these texts that you read in the traditional studies, you cannot learn, you cannot understand them without a teacher. They're written that way. They want you to have, someone who knows what they're talking about there to guide you through it so you don't draw the wrong conclusions, so they just don't draw any conclusions. You're just kind of like, what in the world are they talking about? So, so that's, so you do need to, in discussion,
Mhm.
I was just thinking, we've got to have a book club next fall, I think, where we read these books that I like so much, and discuss them because that, and then we have the questions right there in our heads, and then we can,
That's why these young monks that have this discussion.
yeah, the debate. That's the whole thing.
Debate,
They had to memorize the text they're debating.
Mhm.
I know, it's like, oh, wow.
You can never-
Amazing. So that by the time they're actually studying it, they can pull it out, they've got it in their minds. So this is, so it's very cool. It's a lot of work. But so if you have Geshis as teachers, that's their background. I think it's helpful to have, no question you benefit from traditional teachers in the Tibetan way, but there's also no question you benefit from having Westerners who have your history also explain things. So, I think we've got the best of both worlds. Access to so many books, and we have access to teachers. So it's very cool.
Amazing.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. So, and the more we chase the Dharma, the more we try to make it just an everyday part of our lives, through reading, discussing, and acting, it's the more familiar we become with it. So it becomes our tendency.
Mhm.
Most of the monks I know, like my teacher in Australia, when he was 7, he goes, oh, I've got to become a monk. That's just happened.
Why did you end up in Australia?
Because there was a nuns community where you could receive teachings in English. I have no knack for languages. So that's why you have to make aspirational prayers. That's the other aspect of, it's just, this is why praying to be reborn in a pure land is important. But aspirational prayers are considered the bridge from one life to the next. And when Arya beings, they are reborn due to their prayers, so they might be in order to do their bodhisattva work, so it's accomplished through their prayers. So it's kind of amazing. But we're all, we think we're all bound by this physical body, ignorance. We're grasping at a self, and now it takes the form of this really concrete kind of body. When you're an Arya being, your body is made of like more of light, is how they describe it. So, you can choose, through the power of prayer, your form. They don't move at all. They're just everywhere. But, they can just pop up, to help. Did I tell you the story about Harry? Harry is one of Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche's long-term students, right? And he was walking along one of these little narrow, and the Sherpas were coming down the other way. They're going down, he was going up, and they had donkeys or whatever they use, covered with lots of stuff on them. And he realized there was not enough room so he decided that he would give them way. So he's basically leaning off the side of the mountain, and he said he just felt a hand just hold him up there until they passed, And he said, I'm sure it was because of my, that in that moment, generosity, to let the other people just go, So we just, that can't happen though if you don't have any merit.
Right.
The Buddhists can only help us, but it's that spontaneous, effortless help. They don't have to figure out what to wear. And a positive mind is a condition, as positive things to manifest, whereas a negative mind is a condition for your negative karma to ripen. So, oh joy. So talking about the 12 links, those are very specific links, a powerful action that is complete in order to become the kind of seed that ripens at the time of death, to project you or throw you or fruitioning you into a new life, to rebirth, so you will, but these are also states of mind that occur, but they have, the craving that's happening at the time of death is craving for this body to continue to exist. The grasping is it's proving to you that it's not going to continue to exist, that you're really grasping at existence, and then even when this is dissolve and then you're arising in a Bardo body, you're craving, that grasping still there, I must exist, and you're, finding your new parents or whatever. So those, those are particular moments, but it can be about anything in general, and we're placing seeds of habits.
Can you have no craving and not continue to exist?
Oh yeah, you don't cease to exist. What you do is become liberated. But that takes, it's not just not grasping. It takes all sorts of things to be able, but that's the path, and you've developed all sorts of things, and understanding of how the subtle mind gets released at the time of death. You can use it to become enlightened in that moment, but that takes a very practiced person to be able to do that, or good karma from the past, I guess, in the past. But it's as long as you're in samsara and you haven't realized how things actually exist, ignorance is going to be a condition for that craving and grasping to occur.
In your consciousness, just do it.
No, consciousness always exists. Your consciousness has always existed, will always exist.
But then it's not my consciousness anymore, right?
Because there isn't a my.
There what?
There's, because there really isn't a my.
Okay.
The my is a label. So it's your continuum that, one that your previous caretaker of your mind stream called my, it's, but it's just, it won't be this story. But your consciousness never ceases. It's never born, it never ceases. It's always existed. And then there's also a physicality of the universe, parts that make up the objects or form, I should say. So but if you want, see, this is stuck in samsara, or we get liberated from it. There's no third choice.
Somebody mentioned something to me today that gave me. Somebody mentioned today that
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I heard that story on the news.
The question was about ethics and about, well, what about the pig?
Yeah,
It's a sentient being.
right,
Who asked the pig?
right.
And so is there an order? Is it because we are in service? For, yeah.
Well, you could say that's why it is heavier karma to kill a human being than it is to kill a pig or other animal, because they can't become enlightened in that life because of the physical support for their mind. However, they don't want to die.
Mm.
So favoring your life over the pig's life in order to do this. So yeah, I mean, it's just, these are those really tough questions we have with our technology. We're able to do things that, aren't the best idea. Only I can think, because it's yeah.
I just saw a commercial that
We're talking about the pig transplant.
it baffled me that they were talking about batteries would soon become our food.
Our food
Yeah, they
in a funny eating.
is gonna from batteries create the food or the soil, or it's just I just like
Who cares?
shook my head.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's because our karma creates our universe. So, some future universe maybe. So, but we're all made up of the same elements. It's true that we just keep rearranging things, but it's not like they're not made from, building blocks of the same stuff, from the Big Bang and before the Big Bang. So it's, but yeah, the ethics of using animals, like test all our medicines, that have been around a while were tested on animals, and then they were tested on humans. And then, so we, those are all questionable. You have to really think about it.
Yeah, keeping mares pregnant for the primary for women.
Yeah.
Or keeping cows
Yeah.
pregnant for the milk.
Right.
Killing rabbits to find out if you're pregnant, we've done this is it. So, and there isn't some right answer to any of this.
Right.
But there is individually, we want to think about these things. His Lama Zopa Rinpoche really had trouble with organ donation.
Oh.
Because you're not dead.
Oh.
Yeah, I just had my license changed most recently. Took that off.
No, I'm all for it, so it's just, but because there isn't like a right answer. I know that my body's not going to stay in a state of concentration for more than 3 seconds. So I'm not really worried about that part, so feel free to take my parts and my consciousness will go up. Please touch my head first. But,
You just said that because he has a problem with the organ donations because you're not dead.
right. So like
But
someone,
he's dead.
now, no, you're not dead from organ donation. They have to keep your body alive. And according to Buddhism, your consciousness does not leave the body yet. Even after the brain's dead, your consciousness is still there for a while. And highly realized beings can be in meditation for weeks. The body doesn't decay because they're not dead. That won't happen with me. I'm not worried. And it's meritorious to give your organs. So it's really, there's not a right or wrong answer here. It's just, so it's just, we have to use our own wisdom. We have to decide for ourselves.
Well, I thought, why waste it if it can help somebody?
Because you're not dead.
Oh, yeah.
You can become enlightened in if you recognize the clear light of death.
I'm just using it as an excuse not to do it.
No, that's fine.
Lama Zopa said.
Yeah, well, he was concerned about it. because these things are complicated. So I, however, don't happen to worry about it. So, but don't follow my advice. You've got, these are decisions one has to make for themselves.
It is for us to find out when it happens, no?
Well, you kind of have to sign the forms in advance.
No, I know that, but what we are actually experiencing.
Yeah, we won't
But-
know and we won't remember
Oh.
unless we can utilize
Heard some bad stories though.
about what. I don't want to go there. Okay, well, I mean, we're out of time. So let's take a moment and rejoice in our efforts to try to understand the Dharma. And help each other understand the Dharma. You know, all that stuff. That's really a positive activity. We're not abandoning the Dharma. We're actually creating the cause to meet the Dharma. So this is very good. And let's dedicate. So it's on page 235 of the prayer book. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of Guru Buddhas and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that we may follow their perfect example. We dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so we might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect, pure Losang Drapa to shine forever. And then His Holiness's long life prayer on page 244. The land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then, what's the page, 234 or something?
234.
For the return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Yay! So thanks, guys. So don't forget Saturday's teaching by Paula Chichester. And I think it starts at 9:30. Maybe 10. It may be 10 to 4, and with a couple hours off for lunch. And Sunday, and then whatever.
I think there's a medicine.
Okay, then there's a medicine Buddha Puja Monday night. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye, guys. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
staying
Tendron.
away.
That
I
was
know it's
wonderful.
tough.
Thank you.
Not all the time, but we did.
You did it.
Sunday is the medicine Buddha.
Thank you, Venerable.